You got one more, dude. One more before a 2 to 3 week break before you're in the college football playoff. Give it everything you've got. Everything.
Yep.
Empty the tank.
Think about what would be a bigger shot in the balls for them than us stepping on them twice in a season on our way to a national championship as we move into the Big Ten.
They'll never hear the end of that if that
No,
happens.
they won't. And vice versa. If they beat us and they go on to win the national championship, then man, it's going to be like the St. Valentine's Day massacre of Twitters, where they're going to line all of us UW Twitter people up and start taking shots and pulling receipts, doing all that. And I know all three of us.
How much pressure's on Dan Lanning too?
Yeah.
Dude, he's already lost the first two to Kalen DeBoer.
Let's talk about the Pac-12 championship game. Izzo, you're up, bro. Tell me what you think. What are we going to do to beat this Oregon team?
UW has got this is a big thing for me, and I almost talked about it in the previous podcast, but Bo breaks off to the right a lot and to that throwing arm, and he obviously targets the middle of the field. What I want to see in this game is I want to see very disciplined edge play and linebacker play. We need to completely switch gears from where we just put our heads down and went straight after Cam. I think the slight difference in speed and awareness in this offense, especially at quarterback, I think Bo has more, like, he just has a better read on breaking out and finding receivers after a play is extended. Cam Moore is very good at it. Don't get me wrong. But Bo is special at this, and they scheme it in the offense. I want to see us hold down that right side of the defensive line and just make sure that we're playing disciplined ball. And that goes to ZTF. That's Raylan. That's Carson. I think Raylan Goforth is going to be a big factor in this game just because of his length. And I assume with what he brings to the table against the pass in pass coverage, they're going to want to shadow him to the right side. I'd just like to see the UW defense identify that and shade him.
Went up front on both sides of the ball in the trenches. When we did that last game, October 14th on Montlake, that's why we were so successful. Go look at how some of those offensive line offensive line guys on Oregon graded out. Dude, Braylon Trice had a monster game. Thule, I think he only played 22 snaps. He's going to play a hell of a lot more in 22. I promise you that. But if we can win up front on both sides of the ball, that's another huge key and will allow us to come out of this game with the W.
I almost don't feel like, as we talk about keys, you don't even want to talk about the receivers. Like, I feel like our fan base kind of knows what we're getting here. Like, I don't feel like Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan and these guys who've had some drops in these last couple games, like, are a thing that you need to scheme and completely change. And we talked about that. I feel like when it's really all dependent upon, like you're saying, the trenches. Like, can you attack and exploit Braylon Trice versus Josh Connerly? I was looking at some of these grades from the past couple weeks at Oregon. Some of their offensive linemen outside of Jackson Powers Johnson, they haven't really graded out that well. And we know, as fans who are obsessed with these two teams and these two rosters, that is maybe the weak point of their offense, because they're studs at wide receivers. They got studs at running back. Bo Nix is a stud. Exploit the mismatches. And I feel like and I know you've talked about this endlessly, and I feel like this is going to be another factor in this game. Braylon Trice versus Josh Connerly. Put a shoulder into his chest, make him hold you, draw some flags, put pressure on Bo on that side, and then get ready on that right side for contain. Get pressure on the left, contain on the right, and I feel like we can play our game and take the W.
Dude, that was one thing that a lot of Oregon fans actually DM'd me after the game. They were like, dude, I listened to your pod, and it's my second or third time listening to it, and I was surprised how spot on you guys were. And I think they were a little bit shocked with what we were talking about with Trice and Connerly. It was never a shot at Josh Connerly Jr.
No,
dude, he's a 206 kid. He's a Rainier Beach man.
Phenomenal. Dude, he's a great player.
He's going to be he's going to be even better. I mean, his projectable tools are very, very impressive. But we're talking a 19-year-old versus a 22-and-a-half-year-old or whatever it is. I mean, Braylon Trice is a freaking horse, man. He's a donkey, dude. I mean, and he will run you over. And that's what I was talking about then, and it's what I'm talking about now. that's the position that and Thule is where we really need to exploit that offensive line. And I'm telling you, man, you can see it when you watch Thule. That's why in multiple podcasts we say he's our stalwart of our defensive line, but he's such a key contributor. It's not always a stat line contribution. It's getting, it's the pressure. It's getting offensive linemen to hold him so they got 10 yards back. But that's just the ability to have him play a full game. Dude, it's something we haven't really seen in a while.
We really need these DBs to not have to track very fast wide receiver group around this field for a really long time. And I don't think you're going to for sure shut down Bo from extending plays by breaking outside of the pocket. I think it's unrealistic that you're going to get zero of that happening. If Asa brings some leadership in the discipline department, in the communication department to keep guys from getting burned on coverages deep, we can get some picks on Bo in this game.
With Tez Johnson and Troy, and I'm not sure Gary Bryant's healthy or not, but dude, these really aren't the guys you're probably going to get a lot of coverage sacks against.
Right.
So getting that pressure up front quick and often, and whether making Bo hit the check down and we're sound in our tackle, whatever that is, I think that's just such a key to winning this game. And I think it's something you're going to have to see to be successful.
I mean, the truth of the matter is they look the last 5 weeks like maybe the best team in college football, especially offensively, because they come out fast and they get those big plays and they get people playing behind the 8 ball really early, and it's hard to beat them in a shootout. I think we're built to be able to do that, but you get down a couple scores, it's hard to do. When we're looking at specifically our corners and our safeties, do we need to see them have their best game of the season this week?
I mean, yes. They're going to try to confuse our defense with misdirection and all sorts of things to take away how much pressure that we can get on Bo. And when that happens, they're setting you up for disguised long intermediate routes coming across the field. That's what I keep bringing that up. That's what I'm most fearful of on their offense. Now, what it means is there's a recipe to win this game if you can just make sure that you don't come out of that game plan unless they are doing something completely different from what you expected. So to answer your question quickly, yes, this has to be our best defensive backfield game.
And now we know that Troy Franklin is kind of the highlighted player of that wide receiving corps, but Tez Johnson's really kind of been changing the game. Noah, what does our defense have to do if say we focus on locking down Troy Franklin? What does our defense have to do to stop these secondary receivers, but specifically Tez Johnson?
Yeah, man. You know, when you look at Tez Johnson, he has 70 plus catches on the year. He has 36 over the last 4 games. So I think you're really starting to see him and Bo, get very comfortable with each other. And, historically, that's kind of the type of wide receiver this Husky team has struggled with. These quick little scat backs. And I think I don't think you're going to so much contain him from catching the ball, but everything he does is a lot of like quick, outside stuff, maybe, quick little slants, sound tackling. And that death row dog mentality is what you're going to need against someone like him. Dude, he weighs, man, sopping wet, bro, $165. I mean, he's a smaller dude. So, dude, this is like a Dom Hampton punishment type game, man. You want to come over the middle? We're gonna make you pay for it. The other thing I wanted to say really quick in regards to Bo and kind of just containing in this discipline type, recipe we're saying. One thing Oregon's done is they've really relied on Bo all year, but in a different facet than they did last year. At this point last year, he already had 89 rushes. He only has 47 this year. Yep. But think about where we are, though. I mean, we're getting into, what cutting time, man. And this is a game to me that I could really see them kind of unleash Bo for 7, 8, 9. I'm talking actual play called type runs. Because it's not really on tape much, man. A lot of his runs are kind of like, I don't see anything. Okay, I'm going to scamper for 8. I'm going to scamper to extend the play. But I mean, I could see Oregon really trying to use his legs to kind of push them in this Pac-12 game to try to get a W. That's kind of one thing I don't worry might not be the right word, but it's something I could definitely see them kind of like, opening up in this type of game.
I actually want to build on that because that's something that we've really been talking so much about, the pass game and containing Bo Nix in that aspect. But this Oregon team, when it comes to running the ball, they have Bucky Irving, who's 1,000-yard rusher. They got James, who's got close to 700 yards himself. Both of those guys have 10 touchdowns a pop. They can run the ball with the best of them, and we have to be ready. And I think that really falls on that front seven, the defensive line guys like Thule, but also Carson and Eddie and Raylan and Tupatala all really having to step up. I mean, it's a tall task. If you're Chuck Morrell and William Inge, Izzo, what are you telling your front seven to, because they're not going to have a packed box to support them. They're going to have to make a lot of these plays themselves. What do you do if you're the defensive coordinators trying to tell these guys, hey, this is what I need from you?
It seems to me like, for whatever reason, Jackson Powers Johnson has been an absolute stud, but I feel like we have the guys in the middle of that defense to kind of, with Thule healthy and coming off a game where he only played 5 snaps, where we can actually maybe put up a good fight with that interior offensive line. I'm weirdly not that worried about this interior offensive line versus our interior defensive line. Maybe that's not weird is not the right way to put it, but I feel good about it. And so let's focus on containing the edge with their 2 running backs, because I don't want to get them outside running to the sidelines in space.
Izzo, my bad. I mean, who do you guys think is like widely regarded as like our 2? And I don't mean just like straight line fast. I mean, like, who's like our twitchiest 2 linebackers?
Yes, I think it's Raylan and Carson. If you're talking about go ahead.
Oregon's offense has this innate ability to kind of really expose defenses. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. It's the truth. And so what I'm saying is, who has the ability to, go quarterback goes play action in front of you, but then you have to drop back into our hook zone, whatever that is, and make a play, on Tez Johnson. I think that's who you're probably going to end up seeing play more in this game from a linebacker position, is who can do that. And who has 2 linebackers to do it? It's actually Oregon, man, with that Jeffrey Bossa kid. Yeah. And, you've seen it with Jacobs and Hill. And it's like, can our linebackers kind of step up to being able to, see the play action and still drop back and help the secondary? And I think that's key that we haven't really talked about is, can we do that? And I mean, it's probably a big impact in a game like this.
I think you're also going to see that with some of the edges. Like, you'll notice when Zion specifically drops back into coverage a lot, and he's very athletic, so he can make it. I think he's still kind of figuring his body out when it comes to being able to switch directions, but he's quick and he can jump. And I think you've seen him drop into coverage and actually have an effect where he stops guys from throwing. And I think when you're talking about like the linebackers and what if they're going to be able to make that impact in pass coverage, I think that is going to matter a lot, because they're going to be playing up near the line of scrimmage a ton, trying to contain that running game. A lot of that is going to, I'll tell you where I think it's going to actually matter the most, where it's going to give them that freedom to be able to drop into coverage, is the edge play against the run. Guys like Sakai, who is the first one that comes to my mind when I think about this, if he can really hold down the edge when they're coming at him, that's going to allow the linebackers to be able to swing through and make those plays in the gaps, allowing them to not have to be so close to the line of scrimmage, or allowing the defense to not have to really call run blitzes so much and leaving them out of position on play action. So I think a lot of that's going to, a lot of what the linebacker play does in the passing game is going to matter on how we're already defending the run to start. Let's move to the Oregon defense versus the UW offense now. We were able to move the ball on them in October, scoring the 36 points or whatever to beat them, and that's good. How do you see us being able to do that again, especially with the issues we've been facing on offense the last few weeks?
Do almost identically what you did in the first game. Establish the run early, get that defense out of their defensive game plan, and kind of just shake things up a little bit. I'm a little bummed out that Dylan is hurt, or not playing 100% or what have you, just because I felt like that this was an opportunity for us to kind of flip the script on Oregon and kind of maybe play into a different style of offense in that way. But we need the running game to open things up for this pass. So to be honest with you, go watch the first game. It's the way that we started with the pitch out to Dylan Johnson.
Yeah.
And he established, he broke for a first down, 15-yard run. That type of thing sets the tone for our offense. It's just offensive line needs to play strong, disciplined, go up against this defensive line that's taken some strides and establish the run early so that you can open up the rest of the playbook, but play something very similar to what you did in the first game.
I think Oregon, they've watched our film and they're going to try to come right at our interior offensive line, and they're going to try to come right up the gut. And it's how well can we sustain, and keep Mike clean. That's kind of been one of my big keys from game in and game out, is how well can we keep Mike clean. And dude, Jordan Burks last game, dude, he ran this loop. He started on the left side of the defensive line. He came all the way and smoked one of the right guards, like straight in the face, absolutely baptized the guy. And it's like, we are big enough, we're strong enough, we're athletic enough on the interior offensive line that specifically to be able to withstand everything Oregon is going to throw at us. Can we do it? That's the question. We've struggled against teams we shouldn't struggle against, but we always have kind of risen to the occasion, man. And I think that's what you're going to see, especially with KDB and his staff, is, do we have the ability to look every one of our players and say, hey, everybody's counting you out. Everybody's saying, hey, you're a 9.5-point underdog. You're a 10-point underdog. They're already talking, who we playing in the bowl game. Looks like Oregon's going to the CFP. And I promise you, man, these guys will be ready to go, when the rubber hits the road. And when Jordan Birch, when Justin Jacobs, when Bassett comes up the middle, trying to double A gap blitzes. This offensive line, man, this interior offensive line, they'll step up to the plate and they'll make everybody know exactly who they are. So I ain't too worried about that.
I also think what the help that they get, whether it's from the tight ends, the running backs, making sure they're picking up the guys they're sending, because I think that's kind of been since the Arizona State game been something that they've shown that, hey, if you blitz those A gaps, there's chances for success and opportunities to create havoc and knock Penix off his spot. When we're on point with our reads and our calls, I mean, look what happened when we played Oregon last time. We were able to figure that out, and those big plays happened. And that's how the big plays happen. Like, hey, we caught them with their pants down. They're bringing everybody, and Rome is one-on-one, or Jalen's one-on-one, and we know that guy can't cover him. All we got to do is just get the ball off. So I think you guys are right. I also think in this game, because we're very evenly matched, one of the things we haven't talked about is how special teams is going to matter.
Yeah,
special teams has mattered a lot, especially when it comes to field position and all that. Izzo, I know this was something that you really been pointing out. What do you want to see happen on those special teams, and where do you think it's going to matter the most?
Yeah, I think quietly Daniel Nada in the kick return game. I know this is a deep cut here talking about the kick return game, but he's been solid, man, and he looks like he's itching to break one. We started a lot of drives and like past the 30-35 against the Cougs, and he's been really solid back there. Like we said, this is going to be a coin flip again. And when that happens, there's three things that stick out to you: turnovers, penalties, and special teams. I know this is just kind of an eye-rolling moment. This is what every coach says, but truly, I think it was KDB playing some 4D chess, giving Grady Gross that scholarship right before this game, right as he reestablishes confidence, because he had missed a few. He missed one in this game. He missed one against Oregon State as well.
Yep.
That was kind of genius if you think about coaching and managing the mindsets of kids like this to give him that vote of confidence. So I absolutely loved that, because you need him, just like he won the game last time we played him. You need him to do it. You might need him to do it again.
I want to grab a real quick question from the Discord before we move on. Question comes from UW Minister of Vibes. What is the disconnect with the offense? Is Mike hurt? Is Mike hurt more than what he's letting on.
I want to say one thing, and I'll let Izzo talk about his Mike Hurt part. But what's been the disconnect with the offense? Let me tell you something that is different about this Pac-12 championship than it's been all year. We might be the healthiest going into the Pac-12 championship and firing on all guns. I know everyone's going to say, well, our offense hasn't looked that good the last couple of weeks, but I'm telling you, we are the most healthy going into the Pac-12 championship than we've been since probably week 3 against Michigan State. Giles is going to be back. Mm-hmm. J-Mac got like, his feet underneath him a little bit. I'm not worried about Polk. Dude, he'll be on the jugs machine. He's probably on the jugs machine right now with the full moon going on. I mean, I'm telling you, man. Dude, Polk is a grinder. Giles is a grinder. The wide receiver unit is something we don't need to worry about.
Do you want to address is Mike hurt?
Yeah, I mean, any more banged up than Mike is normally? I doubt it, man. I'll just leave it at that. Like, you're looking at a kid who was really stressed out at the end of a game, get walked out by the head of security while players are rushing the field. People are talking about, was he puking in the phone booth? No, man, he's just nervous for that kick. Like, he's not any more hurt than I think that he's letting on. Quick answer is no. I don't think there's anything to worry about. Is he going to play? Of course he's going to play. Is he going to be Mike? Yes, he's going to be Mike, man. We're good.
Let me play a little devil's advocate then real quick, because these are the things that, like, when we're on Twitter and we're seeing the back and forth, a lot of people are talking about the Mike's completion percentage dropping. When you're listening to Brock Heward during the game, he was talking about how the ball is tending to drift on him, like the Westy catch that he made. If he hits him in stride, that's a touchdown, or at least close to it. And then there's a bunch of other plays where, man, he just seemed to be just slightly off in sailing it. And they're like, oh, that's a sure sign of that he could be hurt, or that something could be wrong. There's rumors about ribs and stuff like that. Do you think that's just, hey, these are just tough games? Or would you tell the people that are saying those things, man, it's not an injury. It's something else.
I think we're conflating two things that happened at different times. So I think that he was really sick at the middle of the season against Arizona State. Stanford, he was getting, a lot of the team was getting over that illness that was floating around. Then you've got a stretch where I think coming off of that, he was probably pretty tired. And I'm not talking about physically, I'm talking more about mentally. And because a lot of this is riding on, a lot of things going on or riding on him. So I just think it was at that point in time, health. At this point in time, it was like just relief. And you went 12-0 and it took everything you got. Hopefully it took a day or two. He, and he flushed that. And now he's going into this game with a clear mind, clear head. And I know that he has the support. I know that he's got the people around him for him to unload on and just, feel that sense of relief. That I think that's what we saw at the end of that game. And so I think it's two separate issues.
Okay. Noah, do you want to add anything? Or
this has nothing. Yeah, I just want to say this. This has nothing to do with Oregon. This has everything to do with University of Washington, where we are in the 2023 season. Dude, we're 12-0. To get to 12-0, man, you got to go 9-0, 10-0, 11-0. The pressure of that just mounts. What do people always say when you lose a game 5 or 6 every year? Well, hey, at least we won in the middle of the season, so we can kind of get back into the college football playoff picture. Dude, when you start to put a perfect season together, I don't care who you are. Everyone is going to give you your best shot. Everybody wants to knock the king off his throne. And at what point does it just start to wear on you? I mean, it's a little bit. It may be a little bit crazy if it didn't wear on you a little bit.
Absolutely.
But using this underdog mentality that we used last week against Oregon State, dude, it's only going to be amplified in Las Vegas this week. And as we prepare on Montlake, it is going to be a war cry. Every one of these young guys is going to be ready to go for this game. And I'm telling you, it's something that if I was Oregon, and I'll flip it to them now, I would probably be a little bit concerned or worried might not be it, but it's probably something. It's like, damn, you're giving them, you're saying 9.5 points. Dude, that's a lot of bulletin. That's a lot of bulletin board material.
Pressure's on you.
It kind of is. It's kind of flipped now.
It really is. I mean, if you think about it, the last 20 years was Oregon's time. They really made a lot of headway, and they were successful, especially during the dark ages of UW. And the last 7-8 years, things have gotten a lot more even. But if you look the last two seasons, we beat them twice. And if you're in, I know it's got to be in the back of some of these Oregon players and coaches' minds is, do these guys have our number? Is this and if I was the UW player, that's what I'd be saying. I'd be trying to get in their heads, being like, man, I know you don't want to think about it, but now you can't stop thinking about it. Get them thinking that, hey, we are better than you. We've proved it twice. We're going to do this again and again and again. And as we go and think about what would be a bigger shot in the balls for them than us stepping on them twice in a season on our way to a national championship as we move into the Big Ten.
They'll never hear the end of that if that happens.
They won't. And vice versa. If they beat us and they go on to win the national championship, then man, it's going to be like the St. Valentine's Day massacre of Twitters, where they're going to line all of us UW Twitter people up and start taking shots and pulling doing all that. And I know all three of us.
How much pressure's on Dan Lanning too?
Yeah.
Dude, he's already lost the first two to Kalen DeBoer. He's gonna lose his first three. I mean, man, that's a lot of pressure, man. Dude, let's get into some projections, baby. Let's do this.
Let's move on. All right, let's slide right into it. Real quick though, make sure you go join the Discord. Link is down in the bio. The Discord has got all the best information on the internet for UW football. Recruiting is huge. If you want to know what's happening, you want to hear the rumors, it all comes out in the Discord. It's free to join, but only $8 a month if you want to literally get all the information before it hits the press. What did my guy say? Crowdsourcing is the best way of getting information, and there's no better place for that when it comes to UW football than the Dub Discord. All right. Here we go. It's prediction time. As we get into this Pac-12 championship game against our rivals, the Oregon Ducks, they're hated. They're hated. We hate them. They hate us. All right. Who wants to go first? Who wants to say it first? Because this is so hard. This is too hard for me to just say, hey, you should go first. Who wants to give the prediction first and put their neck on the chopping block?
No, you just go for both of us because we have the same score prediction.
All right.
And we have the same way this game lays out. I know we already talked about it. Secret
like hive mind.
unveiling
behind the scenes. We've already discussed what we're going to pick for this game.
So I can change my score a little bit because I think that it's still right in the ballpark of really what I'm thinking. But this is the best way as I look at this game, as I've watched film on them, as I've really done, I've watched all their games. I mean, they're a hated rivalry. I mean, there's no secret there. This is kind of the best way I can put it. I think Oregon might be the more complete team, but I think UW is the more elite team. I think that Oregon might have a higher floor, but when everything's clicking at UW, dude, I think our ceiling is the number 1, 2, 3, 4 type team in the country. I think we're that good. I think that, and that's why I say UW is more elite. We can take the top off. We can run the rock. We have the most precise quarterback in the country, dude. We can. Our defense, bend don't break. They can make plays. I'm telling you, when things are clicking, UW is as good as anyone and can play with anyone in the country. Mm-hmm. My prediction for this game is 34-29 Dogs in the last Pac-12 championship. Just a thriller. It's going to be a great game. It's going to look a lot probably like the last couple games that we've played against them, somewhere right in that 60-point range, and it's going to be one for the ages, and it's going to be one that the last Pac-12 championship is right where we want it to be, 13-0 and going into the college football playoff.
You flipped the script on me with that
a little bit. I know.
And actually, I think having the past couple hours to talk about all this, I'm going to change mine too. I'm going to say this. We've already had one of the craziest games back in Seattle against this team this year. This game will be crazier, in my opinion, and not just given the setting and everything like that, but from a gameplay, I think it's just going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I think we win this game on a Grady Gross field goal and win it 31-30.
Ooh. So he's kicking the field goal down.
Kicking the field goal to win it by 1.
Ooh, that's naughty. I like it.
I like it a lot. Question for you guys, because a lot of people are asking this all over Twitter and all over just in general. Is there a pathway to the playoff if we lose this game?
Probably not. Just it would take a long time to explain, but basically you would have a 1-loss UW against a litany of 1-loss teams who've been 1-loss teams for longer. The point in time where you're taking this 1 loss, if you do, is not. I mean, do you want to put it up to the committee to choose you over, Bama or whoever? Texas. Yeah.
Georgia. If they lost 1 game, what did Mark Davis say for the Raiders? Just win, baby.
Yeah, it don't matter.
It don't matter because we taking that dub on Friday night. Mark my words, we're taking that dub.
That's what I'm saying too. All right. Anything else you guys are gonna hit on before we call this a show?
Quick message to the players. You got 1 more, dude. 1 more before a 2 to 3 week break before you're in the college football playoff. Give it everything you've got. Everything. Yep. Empty the tank. Let's go, baby. 1 more. 1-0.
Yep. 1-0, baby. 1-0. That's all that matters. Let's go. 1-0.
1 win, and you have created history. You've already created history, but you take it to a whole new level where right now they're kind of at a level where the Jake Brownings and the John Rosses and those guys were. But if you want to be on that level with the 91 team, those national championship teams, you have your shot. You guys all came back. This was your reason. All right, I want to thank all you guys for tuning in. Make sure you go hit the like, subscribe, leave comments, join the Discord, hit us up on Twitter. Let us know you love us because we love you too. For my guy Izzo, for Noah, I'm Mike Flaunt. This is Dubbed Up. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, baby.
Go Dogs.